Before the show starts, guys, just a reminder, there are now timestamps in the video description so you can jump around the video however you want to. So, you can have a good time. Now let's begin. So, the massive gamer backlash against feminism in gaming has now resulted in feminists being purged from the gaming industry, guys. This is literally Bud Light all over again. However, it's actually very interesting because here, gamers basically, they had Gamergate a number of years ago and they were very vocal. And the media basically shut them down, said they didn't care, and hey, we're going to move on. Well, now gamers are fighting back in a whole other way, and this is with their wallets. They're not buying this shit, okay? And it's being noted right now that the reason why the PlayStation 5 Pro is costing $700 is literally because of the failure of Concord, the woke game that Sony had bet everything on, costing $400 million to make. Watching this video to fully understand the implications of this situation, how many feminists and people of the woke ideology are now going to fear in the gaming industry going forward after this massive loss from Sony, and not just Sony, Ubisoft, and other companies that chose to promote DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. All the videos that are used in this video will be cited in the description so you can go and check out those creators and support them. And now let's just go ahead and jump right in.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we're going to talk about the effects of a certain company on another company. And of course, we're talking about the Sweet Baby effect, right? This is an effect that we are starting to notice for a lot of different video games that they were involved in previously, that they are now still involved in, and the effects of the sequels and whatnot and how everything tends to follow suit. God of War Ragnarok came out on PC pretty recently, and the peak player count is less than half of the original God of War. Less than half, ladies and gentlemen. And that is such a massive, massive difference that we have to talk about it. So we have an article here from That Park Place with a headline that reads, "The Sweet Baby Effect. God of War Ragnarok peak player count is less than half of God of War, the original game." Now, I remember how excited people were for the original God of War game to come out on PC. I myself bought it on PC. I have it on my Steam account, and I will not be buying the second one, just simply because I don't want to, right? And I know that a lot of people are like, "Oh, Sweet Baby didn't do anything in that game." It's like, no, Sweet Baby did do some things in that game, and at the end of the day, I am trying to boycott as many games that Sweet Baby Inc. is involved in, right? You guys obviously know I played Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and aside from the Tifa censorship, I didn't really see anything that pointed to Sweet Baby Inc. ultimately, so I feel like that was one of those games they really didn't have much of a say on. However, the black female that they race swapped in God of War Ragnarok was an obvious move that was made by Sweet Baby Inc., and there was other things in God of War Ragnarok that looks like it was pointing towards Sweet Baby Inc. as well from the video clips and trailers that I saw. So again, guys, let's get into this article.
I just wanted to share with you that historically, there were no black Vikings. So they did a race swap in God of War Ragnarok where they swapped out a female character, Viking, with a black Viking girl. And just to be clear, no conclusive evidence of black Vikings. While there is no conclusive evidence of black Vikings, historical records suggest that a small number of Vikings may have had black or brown skin. Some dark-skinned people willingly travel to Scandinavia or were forcibly taken there as slaves, and over time they may have assimilated within the Vikings through various cultural factors. They're trying to rewrite history. Let's make it very, very clear. So they put a black Viking in the game. There is no history of black people ever being Vikings, and this is what they are doing. 100% Sweet Baby Inc. Well, guess what? Now the roosters are coming home to crow, because the player count for the people for this game is now falling lower, and it has everything to do with the fact that men are sick and tired of censorship, sick and tired of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay?
Algorithm. Don't get me wrong. God of War is an awesome game. I'm sure the second one is awesome too. I'm sure a lot of people love God of War Ragnarok. I remember when it came out on PS5, I think it did fairly well. It did not sell as good as the initial game, but I think it did fairly well. But the numbers on Steam are extremely telling. It says the peak concurrent player counts for Santa Monica Studios' God of War Ragnarok are less than half of the studio's previous installment for God of War. As reported by SteamDB, God of War Ragnarok hit a peak concurrent player count of 31,606 earlier today, just a few days after it became available to purchase on Steam. This is over 57% less than the previous installment in the franchise, God of War, which had a peak concurrent player count of 73,529 when it released to Steam back in January of 2022. Now, guys, these numbers are huge, okay? They're not like Space Marine 2 numbers, and they damn sure aren't Black Myth Wukong numbers, but they're more than enough players in order to bolster sales in a positive way for Santa Monica Studios, right? Because 73,000 players on PC, and imagine all of the PlayStation players that they had playing the game. Sure, they made a lot of money, and God of War Ragnarok also made money. There's no doubt about it. Even at the 31,000 players, even though it's less than half of what it is on PC, showing that people are not as interested in this one as they were the first one for a multitude of reasons, and Sweet Baby Inc. is obviously one of them. It still shows that this game is still a strong name. It can pull sales, right? As long as they lower their budget and try to be a little bit cheaper in the product, they can still maintain themselves with sales like this and on PlayStation combined. It says, interestingly, both games have the exact same Metascore of 94 from critics on Metacritic. However, the user score is a full point lower for God of War Ragnarok. It sits at 8.1, while God of War, the first game, is at a 9.1. Despite the scores being similar, the lack of players for God of War indicates players are not purchasing the game. One of the reasons could be that the video game consultancy Sweet Baby Inc., led by Kim Belair, worked on God of War Ragnarok. Given this fact, the game was added to Kabruta's Rambo Sweet Baby Inc. Detected Steam curator list, which has over 436,000 followers at the time of this article. You know, at the beginning of Gamergate 2, they tried to say that this particular group, Sweet Baby Inc. Detected, was a small fringe group of gamers, and it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't amount to anything, and nobody cares. That's what the mainstream media was trying to tell you.
So you know what's really interesting about the whole situation? I actually got a notification from that on Steam. So I'm a part of that group. I heard about the group, and I joined the group. And as soon as God of War Ragnarok came out, you know, because I have it in my wish list, I instantly got a notification telling me, oh, God of War Ragnarok is out. And usually I won't pick up these games until they go on sale. But then I got an instant notification from, once the game released, I got an instant notification from the from this group, from the group on Steam, warning me that not to purchase the game because Sweet Baby Inc. has been detected. And Sweet Baby Inc. is the company known for it's a company known for censorship, for censoring games, working with game companies to censor games, basically telling them if they don't implement this censorship, then the company is going to be punished, and Sweet Baby Inc. will basically blackmail them. So I got the notification. I was like, oh really? Damn. It turns out it really looks like this is having a serious impact because like, you know, if this was like Sony or Microsoft, they would shut that shit down immediately. But in the case of Valve, Valve is a privately owned company. Privately owned company. Guys, I am so in love with Steam. I love Steam so much. It's like, it's my crack. I just buy games on it daily. Like, oh, this game that you wanted, it's out. It's out, you know, $9, $10. I mean, I don't have a girlfriend. I don't have a girlfriend. I don't have a wife. I don't have children. You know, guys, I have friends, but I'm actively avoiding them. I don't respond to them. These are the same people when I was sick. You know, did they come? Did they worry about me? Fuck these people. Fuck these people. I'm busy getting my money now. I don't respond to any of these motherfuckers. Okay? And in fact, I mean, half of them can't reach me. Changed my number, so half of these people can't reach me. And it's just very, very interesting. It's just very, very interesting because when you don't have friends, when you avoid friends, when you avoid people in general, I don't say you should live your life entirely like that, but I'm going to be honest with you. You know, a lot of introverts, people think that introverts can completely be alone for the rest of their lives. That's a lie. I had an extreme introvert friend, and he never knew the concept of introvert and extrovert. And he began telling me about his situation that he prefers to be alone, like he just wants to be alone. And because he used to just like take off on me, like we're just chilling, watching a movie. And he's like, all right, man, I'm gonna leave. I'm like, what the fuck? Dude, we're chilling, we're having fun. He's like, yeah, man, I wanna go home and be alone. And it's like it's easy to take offense to that, but then I'm like, dude, he starts talking to me about it, and he's like telling me like he used to have extreme problems with his parents with it because he just wanted to be left alone. He didn't want to. He wanted to be by himself. And I was like, what? And then but then he starts describing it to me. And he's like, he starts telling me like how excited he gets, like he's gonna be alone at home. He's like, oh my gosh, man, you don't know how happy I am. And that's when I was like, oh shit, you're an introvert. You're a real fucking introvert. Oh, it's not that you don't want to be around me. You don't want to be around anyone. Oh my god, you really prefer to, guys. He was not telling me he didn't want to be around me. Introverts are different, guys. Introverts are a whole different breed. Introverts are a whole different breed. For example, as an extrovert, I'm a hardcore extrovert, but I can get tired of being around certain people, and extroverts know this. And so the way I am is like, I'm a bitch. I will hang around you for a while, but if I get bored with you, then I want to play with something new. So I can be around someone for like hours and hours, like 10 hours straight. And you might think that like I'm tired of just being around people. It depends, because some people can drain you. There are some people who are just extremely draining, even for an extrovert, because they're just miserable. They pull energy, they pull value from you. So it's like, it's kind of like a give and take. But some people are just like, oh, I don't want to be around this person. But no, like I can be a bitch like this, where like it's not you, it's me. Like I'll just go and I'll find someone else to entertain me. And then I'll just start feeding off that beautiful energy. But I don't do that anymore. I just like these days I just rather be alone. I'd rather my peace. But with introverts, it doesn't work like that. Now, don't get me wrong, introverts don't want to spend all of their time alone. Every so often, they get lonely. They do get lonely. Introverts will tell you they don't get lonely. They do get lonely. And they do want to spend time with friends, but they love being alone. And they get excited. Because basically they have their own energy. They create their own energy. That, I've done these polls before asking you guys, am I an introvert or an extrovert? And there's some who are like maybe an introvert. Guys, the reason why I can make the videos that I make and I can talk around the clock is because I'm an extrovert. So even though I'm not actively talking to a lot of people, the fact that, guys, I can rant and rant and rant because I'm actually talking to you. I know it sounds strange to you. For this doing YouTube, it's a way of me talking to others. Even though I don't physically have a person with me, if I'm doing a live stream or making a video, it just becomes natural. So I'm actually having a conversation, even though it may feel like I'm having a conversation by myself. I'm actually having a conversation, and I can go for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours as a result of this. Okay? And, but again, it's just very, very interesting, because what's happening here in the gaming industry is people are basically like, we're done with this shit. We're done with this. We're done with relationships. We're done with the gaming industry. We're done with all of this crap. We don't want to be bothered with it anymore. And if we get a notification, we're not going to take these. We're not going to play these games. We're not going to purchase these games. And we're seeing that happen now. These gamers are 100% laying it all out and making it clear they're not going to put up with it anymore. When I got that notification, I was like, oh shit. I got the notification. It told me, like, don't purchase the game. So guys, now it's beginning to hurt, because this is a privately traded company. It's a privately traded company. And you're seeing all the innovation happening at Valve right now. They put out the Steam Deck. You can get a Steam Deck. You get a Steam Deck, the LCD model, 512 gigabytes of RAM, 512 gigabytes of RAM, right now for $336, because they have them on sale. They're actually going to discontinue that model, and then they have another model which is 64 gigabytes, brand new, for $296. And then they're basically, the base model is going to be the LCD Steam Deck model. That's 256 gigabytes. That's going to be $400. That's $400 now, and so that's going to be the new base model. $400 for a Steam Deck. That's sick. But like I said, if you act on this sale, you can actually get even a better one right now in the LCD version. Then they have the OLED model, which is $549. And again, that's 512 gigabytes. And then they have the 1 terabyte version, which is what I have, and that version is $649. But it's just crazy. the amount of value that you're getting from these companies compared to Sony and so forth. I mean, it's becoming very, very clear that the PlayStation 4, the PlayStation 5 Pro that came out for like $700 in the US and like $800 in the UK. No, $800 in the EU. Originally, it was like never planned to be that cost, but because of the whole Concord debacle, where they put out where they tried to release this very woke game and gamers didn't purchase it, they ended up having to raise the price of the PlayStation 5 Pro because they're trying to make up for the losses on Concord. Like, don't be surprised, guys, if the goes from current PlayStation 5 goes from $500 to like $599, like Sony, or $550. Sony is desperate right now for money. They just lost $400 million on Concord, and that's the development cost. Development cost. And guys, they thought that this was going to be the future of gaming, this woke garbage. They thought this was going to be like their version of Star Wars with these woke characters and no white males in the universe. Like literally. And, very heavy people. Like, this is what America wants, man. This is this is crazy. And they thought this was going to be the future. So guess what ends up happening? When these companies put out this garbage and no one wants this garbage, what ends up happening? They lose money. These are publicly traded companies. They have to make it up somewhere else. So they start jacking up the prices for everything else. They start charging more for games than they're actually worth. They start charging more for consoles than they're actually worth. And they're like, well, we don't really have a lot of competition, so we can get away with it. Yeah, little buddy. Guys, like I said, Steam is out there. And more people are moving over to these handheld PCs that allow you to play games. And it's only a matter of time, I truly think, until like someone releases a console, or until someone does it, like probably Steam, probably Valve releases a Steam home console, and then from there you'll have Asus and all these other companies, jumping in and releasing their own home consoles that support Steam as well as their own stores, and where they have their own exclusives. And guys, that's gonna be so insane because like Sony will not be able to compete with that. They cannot compete, and again, this is the cost of gaming right now is so ridiculous. It sucks. When No Man's Sky came out, it was basically unplayable, and we had to wait for patch after patch after patch. Valve is getting better, and these companies are getting better at optimizing for PC and ensuring that you don't have to worry about as many updates and all that other shit. But I mean, when it comes to the Steam Deck, I haven't run into anything where like I had to, oh my gosh, dig into files and like, oh, I got to go and edit this file and change a 0 to a 1. Back in the old days, you still do have to do some of that when it comes to maybe like some of the handhelds. But for like Steam Deck, it's just like pick up, play, and enjoy your life, live your best life. And that's just the way it's supposed to be.
I'm going to tell you right now, that's complete and utter bullshit, because it's very clear that this group has an effect on sales. This is 400 and almost 40,000 people who are going to be informed about whether or not a video game has worked with Sweet Baby Inc. or not. And that is a tall tale. Like, I'm telling you right now, that is an easy way for you to lose a fuck ton of money by being added to this list. I promise you, this list is a lot more powerful than people even give it credit for. Another reason for the lack of players could be the fact that PlayStation Studios, the game's publisher, is charging full price for the game, despite it being originally released as an exclusive on PlayStation back in 2022. Furthermore, the game requires Steam players to link their account to a PlayStation Network account. I think this is a more telling issue right here. I think the fact that they are requiring the PSN linking, to PSN, one of the most hacked fucking services on the face of the internet. I think this is more of an issue for a lot of people, and this is why a lot of people are not buying the game, on top of the fact that SPI worked on this game as well, and people know about it, right? Once you start adding all these things together, you're going to start losing more and more and more people until eventually you get to this point where you have less than half of the original game, which they can't be happy with, right? They just can't be. You can't be happy with half of the sales that you had with your first game, because what's going to happen when you release the third game, right? You're probably going to be half of that, and then before you know it, people end up checking out completely. And this is what I was saying in my Dragon Age video, where I I was saying that Dragon Age the Veilguard is absolutely going to have good sales, right? Because you have people who are holding out hope. They're holding out hope as Dragon Age fans that this Dragon Age Veilguard doesn't look as bad as the trailers look, doesn't look as bad as the screenshots look. We're holding out. We're holding on. And as they hold on, they're going to realize that they held on for no reason. And then people start leaving and they start just exiling the game. And before you know it, Dragon Age, the franchise, that used to be a big hit, especially on PC, and sell millions of units, that's not going to be the case anymore, right? Dragon Age is not, that's not going to, Dragon Age already doesn't have the name that it used to have anymore because BioWare doesn't have the name that they used to have anymore. BioWare as a studio is not a very liked studio these days, right? Because you have the failure of Anthem that people still remember, which was a massive failure. And then you also have the not so liked Mass Effect Andromeda, right? From people who like the original Mass Effect series, even though a lot of people don't like the ending of 3 because it was controversial, they still love the series as a whole. And that was a lot of gamers' Star Wars, right? That was gamers' Star Wars when we were growing up, because that was such an awesome, epic experience that it's hard to mimic these days. And the cinematic storytelling was just wild in those games. But still, Mass Effect Andromeda didn't deliver on that. And then Mass Effect Andromeda was super buggy, glitchy. People were spreading screenshots and whatnot. So BioWare as a whole, the studio is not very loved right now. And if this game misses Dragon Age Veilguard, it's going to be a death note for BioWare if they're not already dead as it is.
So, I mean, guys, you can see the screen right now. And if you're looking at my screen, this is Disney had one rule for Inside Out 2. Make it less LGBTQ. So, let's go ahead and jump at this. Numerous former Pixar employees are claiming that Disney was incredibly cornered, that the studio's blockbuster film, this actually comes from the website Inside the Magic. It's a very popular it's a very popular website, and it basically covers pretty much everything related to the mouse. So numerous former Pixar employees are claiming that Disney was incredibly concerned that the studio's blockbuster film, Inside Out 2, would be too LGBTQ, and that the project was micromanaged to ensure no one could take any hint of LGBTQIA themes from it. That seems to have utterly failed. Okay. IGN has published an extensive behind-the-scenes examination of Inside Out 2, speaking to 10 anonymous former Pixar animation studio employees who were laid off in the lead-up to the release of the film. According to the former staffers, the production crunch around the sequel to the beloved 2015 Pete Docter film was erroneously stressful, with one saying that animators were working 7 days a week, ridiculous amounts of production workers, just people being tossed into jobs they'd never really done before. It was horrendous. Pixar had good reason to be nervous at the time. The events of 2020 had decimated the box office grosses for every studio, and the last 3 Pixar feature films, Soul in 2020, Luca in 2021, and Turning Red in 2022, had all been released straight to the Disney Plus streaming service. The prevailing feeling among workers was apparently that if Inside Out 2 flopped, the entire studio was at risk. This is very interesting. So, what did they do? That was the pressure felt by everybody. We need this movie to succeed because we won't have a studio otherwise. And that is the pressure that everybody felt the whole time. The whole time. Even now, I think people are gone. Even now, I think people are gone, still feel that pressure of like, oh my God, we did it. We did it. It is thus somewhat bizarre that in this high pressure environment, a disproportionate amount of feedback from Disney to Pixar was to make sure that the film wasn't too LGBTQ. Former employees say that the failure of the Toy Story spin-off Lightyear in 2022, which contained a check notes 2-second kiss from two supporting as part of a montage, was blamed on including LGBTQIA plus themes. One staffer asserts that still is a prevalent feeling at Disney, saying it is, as far as I know, still a thing where leadership, they'll bring up Lightyear specifically and say, oh, Lightyear was a financial failure because it has a queer kiss scene in it. That's not the reason the movie failed. of course, you have staffers, you have woke staffers that had taken over the studios, and yeah, regardless of whether that caused the failure of Lightyear, it didn't. So that's Inside the Magic is obviously a very LGBTQ friendly website, and I'm not saying anything negative about the LGBTQ guys, not whatsoever. Disney apparently gave director Kelsey Mann and Peter Docter, who was officially executive producer and rumored to have essentially co-directed the movie, continuous notes to make Riley Kennis, Kennis, Kensington Tallman less gay. IGN reports. There was special care put into making the relationship between Riley and Val, a supporting character introduced in Inside Out 2, seem as platonic as possible, even requiring edits to the lighting and tone of certain scenes to remove any trace of romantic chemistry. One source described it as just doing a lot of extra work to make sure that no one would potentially see them as not straight. Inside Out 2 was a huge box office success and is now the highest grossing animated film of all time, so that horrendous production crunch worked out well for the shareholders, if not the laid off employees who were denied bonuses. Ironically, the movie was immediately clocked by audiences for its supposedly LGBTQ plus XYZ themes. One employee said, "Mind you, Riley is not canonically GAY in the film. What you saw, nothing. Nothing about Riley says that she is GAY, but it is kind of inferred based on certain context, and so that is something that they tried to play down at multiple points." You have to remember, guys, that Disney was always pegged as a family company, and and it was centered around relationships where there was a mother and a father, and ultimately they changed things so much that the company they pushed for DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. Now you have the CEO saying that he doesn't know if people even understand what diversity, equity, inclusion are, and he's pissed off because Disney is going downhill, and they had to basically scrub this thing of anything that could be perceived as being community based to try to save the film. And so this kind of shows you just how serious the situation is, that these companies don't actually care about DEI, they don't actually care about woke culture, they don't actually care about the community. They just care about making money. All of this garbage from Sony, from Microsoft. What did Microsoft recently do? They fired their entire DEI department. Fired every last one of those motherfuckers.
But in terms of God of War, same thing, right? If they come up with a third one, I think that's going to be a lot more telling over where people's heads are at when it comes to video games like this that are involved with SBI, that a lot of people are just trying to avoid. This PlayStation Network account requirement saw many players leave negative reviews. The reviews for the game on Steam are currently mixed, with Steam reporting that 67% of the almost 2,900 user reviews for this game are positive. SteamDB reports that the game received 484 negative reviews on September 19th, 765 negative on the 20th, and 256 so far on the 21st, for a total of 1,505 negative reviews, but there are still more positive reviews with a total of 1,505. So again, guys, it's kind of in the middle right now with this game, but the fact that a God of War game is mixed, that's a problem, right? God of War was so loved that you would be hard pressed to find a negative review for God of War. And I'm talking about the originals too. The originals were so loved. You'd be really hard to find a negative review for those. But as we go on and we continue with this, man, people are just speaking out against this stuff, and you're realizing that these negative reviews are starting to happen more and more and more. And when they race swapped this character, that was just another sign that, hey, oh, look, SBI is clearly involved. The game was scrutinized back by gamers in 2022 after the game race swapped the Juton, I can't say this name, Angerboda, whatever. Anyway, you see the character here on the screen. So again, guys, Sweet Baby Inc.'s going to pretend like they never do anything. They're going to pretend like this was not their decision. They're going to pretend like they get hired to do nothing, guys. They're innocent. They're just Sweet Baby Inc. It's impossible. Look at the name. They're just sweet little babies.
So guys, there's nothing sweet about Sweet Baby Inc., but you know what is sweet? My course. Yeah. Something that you guys should all check out. Because in today's challenging world, knowing how to thrive without spending a dime can make all the difference. That's why I created the Buy Nothing and Thrive course. I did it just for you. Just for you. This 12-lesson crash course teaches you how to secure cash, money, food, housing, healthcare, and more There's more. It's like Billy Mays used to say, there's more. All without spending a dime for any of it. Isn't that incredible? Look at you! Look at you getting your shit, alright? Sticking it to the man. Not having to spend a dime on shit. Woohoo! Right. Yeah. Imagine having a trusted advisor showing you how to leverage available resources. Said that 3 times because I wanted to stick with you. To stabilize your finances and grow your wealth. That's something everyone should be doing right now. Hard times are coming. Hard times are coming. You have to be prepared. You have to be prepared. Join me and learn step-by-step strategies to maximize. We all need to do more of that. Maximize what's available to you and enhance your financial stability. All right? A lot of you need financial stability and financial literacy, and we're going to help you with both of those things here. Click the link in the description to sign up now, guys. Something, if do it, guys. Do it for you. Do it for mom. Do it for mom. I know many of you like can't stand your mom, so you know what? Forget about mom. Do it for you, all right? Do it for yourself, all right? Do it for yourself. You can find a link to the course description of the video, guys. Go check that out and thrive. The rampage from all of the woke in gaming is taking many victims. It has many victims, guys. Many victims. And like I said, the cost of the PlayStation 5 Pro at $700 in the US, $800 in the UK and the EU has a lot of people just like in absolute and utter shock right now. And evidently that's because of what happened with Concord. Sony lost 400 million on just development, and that doesn't have anything to do with that. Doesn't even have anything to do with distribution. So all the physical copies that went out and the retailers that have to be reimbursed, it's one hell. So they probably lost a minimum of 500, maybe 500 million when you factor everything together, but it could be closer to $1 billion. But they definitely lost $400 million at the very least. The least amount of money they lost is 400 million. And typically, just for these games to, just like with a movie, when you're financing this shit, usually like just for these things to break even, they have to earn like at least like a third of the budget back, and then like a third more or something like that. So for example, for this thing to even break even, it would probably have had to earn like close to $600 million just to break even, right? And that this thing was a colossal failure. So they may have ended. That's why I say they may have ended up losing something like 600. When everything is said and done, they may end up losing something like 600 or $700 million. So closer to $1 billion. It's absolutely crazy, and they're basically just like you're like, okay, well, fuck you guys. You didn't want to play this game? Fuck you. And they thought that this was going to be their Star Wars, because they think that the entire world right now is moving in this direction. Where, for example, we want more woke, we want more community-based stuff, we want more inclusivity, and they thought that's what they think of the world right now. So they're going to push this, and this was going to be the future of Sony. This was going to be the future of Sony, and this is what ended up happening. So now we're all being punished as consumers for this. That's why everybody's looking into building gaming PCs right now. And it's amazing that Sony is so fucked up that they're acting like they literally don't give a fuck. But that kind of illustrates just like the bad shape that the company probably is in. Like, because they're so desperate for every nickel and dime that they're going to drain. They're not going to provide value to the consumer. They're basically just going to say, you have very little choice than to stay with us, other than, well, PCs are hard. It's harder to use a PC than it is to just use a PlayStation. So we have that going for us. It's a whole load of shit. It's a whole load of absolute horse shit what they're saying right now, okay? They are so desperate, it's insane, and I don't feel bad for these motherfuckers one bit. I mean, I honestly won't get what, go woke, go broke. So I'm happy to see Sony going under. I'm glad to see them getting fucked. I hope they continue to get fucked really hard.
Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and we are gathering once more to speak about Concord. I didn't think we had any videos left in us here, but this situation is so much more worse than anybody could have imagined, right? It already came down to how character design killed a video game. It was that simple, and it was one of the most magnificent flops we've ever witnessed in gaming history. No exaggeration. Well, it turns out the Concord situation is a million times worse, 400 million times worse than we could have ever imagined. When Colin first shared this information with the Last Stand staff and I saw this, I was like, oh my word, I could not believe what I was seeing. And then he shared this information over on the Sacred Symbols podcast, where good God Almighty has it gone viral. So of course, please check out Sacred Symbols. Colin's a good friend of mine, and we're here to talk about Concord once more, where it's obviously been a bumpy ride for the game. We already know that. The beta did horrible when it came to the player count. Then the full release was not good either. They shut down the game a week later. Now the director of Concord has left the studio. The status of Firewalk is in question right now. And after all of this, we learned that this game may have cost $400 million. And fun fact about all of this, included in that episode of Sacred Symbols, this does not include the purchasing price for Firewalk Studios. So that's another I assume, millions of dollars that PlayStation threw out for this game. And wait till you hear the rationale, the reasoning behind this decision making. It's unbelievable. And it's been a bit of a bumpy ride in general for PlayStation as of late. A lot of up and downs. You have Astrobot doing really well. You have this Concord situation. You also have the PS5 Pro situation, where a lot of people aren't happy with that price tag. But you know what? Why are people focused on the PS5 Pro when you can get yourself a nice PC? Am I right? All right, so let's get into this budget here. You know, gaming budgets are weirdly hidden away unless you like dig into GDC archives, or of course there's a massive leak of sorts, which has helped us out a lot in this particular instance, because with Colin saying that it was $400 million to make Concord, with a thorough breakdown of how that money was spent, we can then compare it to budgets we have learned about PlayStation Studios games like The Last of Us Part 2, which cost $220 million. And I'm with a lot of people. I'm not a crazy fan of the story, but the gameplay, the motion capture, the graphics, the lighting, everything. That game is beautiful and fun to play. And so, yeah, if that game's cheaper than Concord, that's saying something. Horizon Forbidden West falls in the $212 million pocket, and that had around 300 employees. 5 years of development time. Then you had Spider-Man 2, which falls in the $300 million to $315 million bucket, and that makes sense. We're talking about Spider-Man, where the first one sold over 20 million copies. So yeah, PlayStation got a lot of money out of that, even with the split between Marvel or Disney and themselves. There was a lot of money to be made there. But you'll see all of these are quality games that had shorter development times and completely undercut the $400 million spent on Concord. And what's really interesting is, for those who don't know, Concord was being concepted and developed for 8 years in total. So it wasn't just 4 years of straight development, but think about it. This began in 2016. That kind of shows, because Guardians of the Galaxy era, really. So it makes a lot of sense where this character design came from. But what's more interesting is when Colin started to break down the timeline in this episode of Sacred Symbols, where he talks about how the game had hit alpha in Q1 2023, which means it had a little bit over a year to go through alpha, beta, and then boom, full release. Now, what's also interesting is that was at the first 200 million mark. So they hit that, which was probably the original set budget of the game. It was not going anywhere fast at all. And so they had to spend more money to get this thing out the door, because they believed in it so much, which is the most fascinating part about this. Believe it or not, like, compared to the price tag, I think the reasoning, the rationale behind this is what's most fascinating to me. I've seen plenty of companies in my day spend stupid amount of money that they will just blink away and not even think much about it, because they have that much in the bank account. But wait till you see the reasoning. Anyway, they hit alpha Q1 2023, right? $200 million pretty much out there. Then they spent another $200 million to get it across the finish line by outsourcing the game. Now, outsourcing games is not uncommon at all, especially in AAA development. This is really what gets all of them over the hump. Like, you have a core development team, and then you send this out to separate studios that kind of refine and finish a lot of the game. But the reasoning, like I've said, the reasoning is just incredible. It's incredible. So this was touted as the next Star Wars. Yeah, the next Star Wars. We'll talk about that. But also, shockingly, the future of PlayStation. Look, I think PlayStation, among all these platform holders, have made some pretty brain dead decisions, but To say that this is the future of PlayStation, do you not listen to your audience?
Can see. So this is an article from Xfire. Toxic positivity and overconfidence turned Concord into a $400 million disaster. Concord's failure raises questions about Sony's project management, which resulted in a well-published or a well-pushed game that cost $400 million to flop in the process. Yeah, so just when you thought everyone was done talking about Concord, now that Sony has officially pulled the plug on the game, someone had to go ahead and dig even deeper. I just love this. Into the mess that already exists, or that already was. According to industry insider Colin Moriarty, who spoke extensively with a former Concord developer, the project's total cost reached a staggering $400 million. This figure dwarfs the budget of Sony's most successful first-party titles, including the award-winning titles Marvel Spider-Man 2, which cost $315 million, The Last of Us Part 2, which cost $220 million, and God of War Ragnarok, which cost $200 million, among several others. So this was one of the most expensive games ever made, and this is the biggest loss, evidently, of all time for any game. Okay, and not just any game, but for like any piece of media. $400 million with an 8-year development cycle. Can you imagine how many people lost their money? To further put this into perspective, the budget for Concord could have funded the development of multiple AAA games or numerous smaller, potentially more fruitful, if innovative projects, or helped keep Japan studio operational. It's become somewhat of a running joke that Sony chose to invest its money in Concord instead of keeping the lights on over at the Tokyo-based first-party developer before its members were merged into Team Asobi, the studio responsible for Astrobot, this year's leading game of the year candidate. The story of Concord's development is one of ambition meeting reality. Initially, it was greenlit in 2016. Okay, guys? So yeah, this is crazy. With the goal of capitalizing on the popularity of hero shooters like Overwatch and the cultural zeitgeist surrounding properties like Guardians of the Galaxy. However, the extended development cycle, which isn't uncommon in the video game industry, meant that what seemed fresh and exciting in 2016 had become stale by the time of Concord's release. I mean, guys, this is the decision that they made. They chose to do this, so it's actually been 8 years. It was greenlit in 2016, so the game was in development for 8 years. And let's not forget that there's a planning stage before it goes into development. So they were planning the game prior to that, which means this likely goes back all the way back to maybe even 2015 or 2014, because there's a pre-development stage. This is crazy. This is really, really crazy stuff. Really, really crazy stuff. This means that all of this woke garbage was planned many years in advance. We're not even talking about this. A lot of people aren't talking about the fact that all of this woke garbage was there and they were planning for this almost 10 years ago. If that doesn't seem like an evil agenda, I don't know what does. But what really stood out from the report is the culture of toxic positivity that's permeating the studio. This mindset, which discouraged negative feedback and promoted unwavering belief in the project's success. Guys, that sounds like communism. Sounds like Marxism. Okay, this is horrible. Okay, it created an echo chamber that prevented critical evaluation and course correction. The development team's head in the sand mentality convinced them that their collective talent, drawing their roots from Bungie, would ensure the game's eventual success, and it didn't. This belief in studio magic, holy cow, is not unique to Concord's developers. Many successful studios have relied on last-minute pushes to bring their projects together, leading to a dangerous overconfidence in their ability to overcome any obstacle. Games such as World of Warcraft, The Last of Us Remastered, and God of War benefited from this approach in the past. However, as the scale and complexity of AAA game development have increased, this reliance on magic has become increasingly risky. What's even more surprising is Sony's ambitious plans for Concord. The company's multimedia approach included plans to release Overwatch-style cutscenes every week to advance the game's story. This strategy, while innovative, likely contributed significantly to the project's ballooning budget. Producing high-quality cinematics on a regular schedule could easily account for millions in additional expenses. Holy cow, guys! Guys, to let you know, so there were some people who looked over the credits for this game. The credits are literally over an hour. A typical game's credit scenes don't run for more than like 8 minutes. And the credits for this game ran for over an hour. So they had to basically the team behind this game, they had $200 million to work with, and they blew all 200 million, and the game was still not functional. So then Sony had to go on a hiring spree and then spend another $200 million just to make the game playable. Talk about insane. Talk about absolutely insane. So the game was shit, and they basically had to just keep on bringing in more and more people, and they believed that this was going to be the next Star Wars. This was going to be an epic tale, and everyone was going to play it, and DEI was going to save the world, diversity, equity, inclusion. They had tons of different characters in there. They had trans characters in there. They had, fat positivity, so they had characters who were very heavy set. They had everything in there. And they believed that this was going to be the future of gaming. These are the games that people want to play. These are the experiences that people want. And that's what they decided to do with all of that money. And they truly believed this. This was the permeating belief in Sony. And we see where basically things went. So this decision becomes even more perplexing when considering the potential return on investment for smaller, less risky projects. The financial impact of Concord's failure on Sony is likely to be significant. With the game only available for 2 weeks before being pulled and refunds issued, it lost a substantial portion of its investment. The situation, they actually said that they lost most of the money. The situation will undoubtedly be a topic of discussion in Sony's next investor meeting. Keep in mind, originally it was $200 million invested. The studio lost all of that, and then Sony had to pour another $200 million in. Sony's next investor meeting, potentially leading to major changes in how the company approaches game development and studio management, if it already hasn't. This is going to be crazy, guys. Heads are going to roll. Heads are going to roll. Concord's technical achievements, because they're a publicly traded company, Concord's technical achievements make its failure all the more tragic. Unlike other high-profile disappointments such as Mass Effect, Andromeda, or Cyberpunk 2077, which were plagued by bugs and technical issues at launch, Concord was a well-polished product. However, the game's fundamental lack of engaging gameplay at its $40 price tag in a market dominated by free-to-play alternatives proved insurmountable. Concord's development and subsequent failure are numerous. First and foremost, it highlights the importance of maintaining a balanced portfolio of projects. Relying solely on AAA titles without the safety net of smaller, more experimental titles leaves companies vulnerable to catastrophic losses, and Sony doesn't give a shit, evidently. Additionally, the dangers of trench chasing in an industry with such long development cycles are clearly illustrated by Concord's outdated concept at launch. Furthermore, it's proof that the days of relying on studio magic, guys, it's delusional thinking, it's delulu, to pull together a project at the 11th hour are long gone. As games become more complex and expensive to produce, a more structured and accountable approach to development becomes crucial. It's been a roller coaster past couple of months for Sony, which finds itself the talk of the industry for the wrong and right reasons. From Black Myth Wukong and its unreported exclusivity deal to the PlayStation 5 Pro and its steeping pricing and the 30th anniversary bundle, everyone can't seem to stop talking about PlayStation. By the looks of it, Sony could end the year still being talked about by the entire internet. Yeah, guys, they've been fucking up hard. They've been fucking up. That's like fuck it up, 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 fuck it up. They've been fucking it up. They've been fucking up hard, fucking up hard, guys. I hope this fucking. I've supported Sony for so long. I hope this company dies. I really do.
I hate to be that guy, but do you not listen to your audience? Bloodborne remaster? I'm not saying that's going to make as much as a brand new AAA game for PlayStation, like a new IP, but do you not know what made you all so fantastic through the PS4 generation? It's right there in front of you with Astrobot. It's really cool, unique exclusives. And I look at something like Bloodborne, I'm like, it would have been cheaper to make this, it would have made way more, and you would have made your fans way happier. I don't get this mindset where the companies think they know much more than the consumer. Like, we're deciding what we like, you use that data. And when you see how much live service games are making, like some stats came out for Diablo 4 where it made a stupid amount of money, it's why live service isn't going anywhere anytime soon. You're still going to see PlayStation attempt live service, even though I don't think it's a well-advised move. But PlayStation's fans, I think, are a particular breed in that they like the third-person, over-the-shoulder, open-world games. And of course, Astrobot is a great 3D platformer, and you have JRPGs on PlayStation that really have a home there. Like, they're known for a lot of things, but live service shooters is certainly not one of them. And so to tout that, the absolute opposite of what you're known for as the future of PlayStation, is the very definition of a sunk cost fallacy. Like, they have spent so much on this, they just have to get out the door. And on one business angle, I get it, right? You've spent so much, you may as well get some ROI.
So let's be clear about one thing. They obviously felt like they were going to get this thing out there and people were going to have to buy it. If you notice right now, they're making like one remake after another remake. Not remake, remaster. They did The Last of Us part, was it Last of Us? And they just made it they just remade the entire game, which is strange because I think there was already a remaster of The Last of Us and they just made a remake of the game, which was ridiculous. And of course, people bought it, but it doesn't. Guys, like these companies are so desperate right now. It's kind of like how you'll have some YouTubers who kind of just like remake the same video topic over and over again. I'm not pointing any fingers at anyone, and anyone should not be pointing any fingers at me. But and everyone does it. Everyone does it because basically the consumer is just going to keep coming back for the same thing over and over and over again because what they want is the same thing over and over again. And I can't say that's a good thing, but it's the truth. But this is, I mean, guys, look at BioShock. Like, was it BioShock? I think it was not BioShock. Oh my gosh, there's this one game where you're playing on like a space station, and I love BioShock. BioShock is a great game series, but not BioShock. There's a game that like you're playing in playing on like the system. You're playing like you're wearing like a outfit, and anyway, they did an entire remake of that game, and it ended up turning out okay. But right now, this is what these companies are doing. So they're playing it very, very safe, just making remakes of games and remasters of old games because of because they're desperate. Sony right now is going to be doing a remaster of Horizon Zero Dawn, which is crazy because it's a game that came out on PlayStation 4, and it got a system update on PlayStation 5, evidently, to make it run even better on PlayStation 5, and now they're going to do a remaster of this game, which makes literally no sense at all. It's 100% a cash grab. So they're just going to take the original version and do further optimization on it and, change out and include higher resolution assets. So yeah, it's so stupid. They think we're stupid. Like, for example, you're looking at Tomb Raider right now on the screen, guys. So I have a background in computer engineering, and I'm just gonna explain how this works. All of the visuals that you see on the screen right now, they have to be generated by there's a CPU and a GPU in there. The GPU generates all the images. The CPU does all the process all the computational data. Here's the thing. The images that you're seeing, like, these are actual images, the trees, all of this stuff, and how they move that's done that can be done dynamically based on the software. But all they're really gonna do is take out the assets, the visual assets that you see right here, and then replace them with higher resolution assets. So, oh my gosh, look how much better they look. So basically, they're just increasing the file size. So now if the game was 100 gigabytes, it'll be 200 gigabytes. Because now the file size of all the textures have increased significantly. It's absolute stupidity. Absolute stupidity. And then they call it a remaster. So they're doing this type of shit right now, and yet they're afraid. They're afraid to release. They're afraid to release, waste money on games because they're desperate for money, and yet they decided to release Concord. But they were so deep in. They were so deep in that I really get there was not a lot they could do because they fucked up so bad.
But I think now PlayStation would look at when they hit that first 200 million mark, the game was in alpha, you just cancel it there. But what's funny is when they got to that point, they bought the studio after that. And this is why the rumors of Jim Ryan kind of getting pushed out of the team at PlayStation makes a lot more sense, because this was a move by him, but then Herman Holst was said to champion this. And that I also believe, because I look at how Horizon is treated now. And for those who don't know, Herman Holst was a co-founder of Guerrilla Games, the developers of the Horizon series. And you look at how much Horizon we're getting, which I think is a fun series. I really like Zero Dawn. I've played very little of Forbidden West, but when you're seeing how we're potentially getting a remaster and we're hearing about a co-op game, and there's a Lego Horizon game, like there's so much Horizon going on. I don't know if I'm just like in the dark here on how much people love it, but I was very surprised to see how much it is. But then you realize the head of PlayStation was originally a co-founder of Guerrilla Games, so he may have their best interests at heart.
It's so crazy, guys, because I'm looking at the situation right now, and they've lost so much money for the company. They've lost so much money. You know, Jim Ryan, obviously, Jim Ryan, he was like the CEO, president of Sony in the United States for like a long time. Bro could not speak Japanese for shit. Tried to speak Japanese, couldn't speak Japanese for shit. And a lot of the woke garbage that we see introduced into these games came from Jim Ryan. You know, don't let the door hit him on the way out. I'm just hopeful that the Japanese wake up and realize that this shit is only going to cost them a lot of money. Because, like, right now, you're going to have a bunch of dudes coming after Sony. Okay, Sony is an international company. Sony makes most of its money not in Japan, in Western society. Like, they're probably, I think that more people in the United States own Sony stock than in Japan, for example. Like, this is crazy. So they're gonna get chewed the fuck out. They are gonna absolutely get chewed out for what they've done, and it's gonna be epic. It's gonna be fucking epic. And guys, they can act like they don't give a fuck as much as they want to, but their investors are going to go so fucking ballistic on them. It's going to be beautiful.
Tell you the truth. So when I think he likes something, you can really feel that sway. So he championed this game, and we're seeing the outcome of it. And if that is true, that is a pretty big bruise to wear. Then the last leg of this is something extremely common in game development, and I'll talk about my own story with this here, is that apparently there was a level of toxic positivity around Concord. You really couldn't say anything negative about this game internally. You couldn't be critical of it to help improve it, that sort of thing. And as a game developer, I get this. I actually went through this whole process with our MVP, which is something that Colin also talks about with Concord here. I distinctly remember when we first started to share this thing around, this is my first time exposing something my team and I had worked on to other people. And in particular, someone who's writing the game, I'm learning as I go. I sent it around. Some people were pretty critical of my writing in the game, and some of it did come across extremely harsh, and I did get into my feelings a little bit over it. I felt a bit hurt about it, but what I realized after that process was done, after the emotions got out of the way, is I'm, number one, a way better writer now. I know what the player's looking for, and you can only learn so much by seeing rather than doing, and then getting very important critical feedback. But the other thing is, it would have been very easy for me to say, like, hey, be nice about this, and just not hear the hard truth about it, which is like, this scene could have been done way better, Matt. Way better. Here's why. And you have to take that into account. So when you get into a game development environment, it's very important to have a critical focus on your product. Be aware of its biggest weaknesses. When you remove that, you remove any ability to sell it to someone. And I think that's the toughest part for people to get over. I think there's a way to deliver criticism on a video game you are making without being an asshole. That's something I've talked about personally in the past, where I've had experiences where people were just straight up rude about things, and you still take the criticism into account. You wish they were a little bit nicer about it, but you still take the criticism into account. But yeah, like, you need that sort of critique internally before you start to spin it out to play testers in mass, because you have something that you're at least a little bit confident of and sure of and has been tested to some degree. But I think that process I went through was so vital to my growth as a developer, my team's growth as a developer. And I look at something like this where, hey, you can't say anything really negative about this. And I believe it, because how does anyone look at some of the character designs in this game and go, yeah, like, I think we should make something that kind of inspires greatness a little bit more here, or a little less wacky and off the rails. And I get it. It's difficult, because the best thing you can do as a developer is make something that you truly believe in and that you would fight for. And so it does lead to some battles internally. That's kind of the nature of creating something, is understanding that everyone wants what's best for the product and reaching a middle ground where critique can be done and you can get the best possible quality out of something. And when that's absent in AAA development, that's a scary thought. That's a scary thought, that their heads were so far up their own asses that they were like, this is the future of PlayStation, even though it's flopping around and flailing. It is the next Star Wars, which is a pretty bold claim. I know some people thought it was fitting given where Star Wars is now, but if you think about it, I would say objectively in the scale and scope of Star Wars and how far reaching it is, that's bold.
I mean, if you look at what's happening with Star Wars right now, Star Wars shows are getting canceled. They are, I mean, they're still trying to hold on to the whole woke thing. Evidently, Rey is coming back for like another series of Star Wars movies, so they're going to double down. I think that's a total load of bullshit. Instead of going in a different direction, they're choosing to actually double down and, keep going with this woke crap. It doesn't really matter who replaces Michael Eisner or Iger, whatever the fuck his name is. The next person is probably going to come in and be just as woke as he is. And the great thing is that people are finally saying that we're not, we'll go and pick up PlayStation 2 and play PlayStation 2 if we have to. We'll just start emulating our games if we have to. We'll just walk away. Like, that's what MWA is, men walking away. So these gamers are walking away from these things. And if Sony keeps on playing this shit, like, for example, you have the ponies, and there's a lot of you who are like, I love my PlayStation 5. I get it. But you have to understand something. Because of what Sony's doing with their pricing right now, many generations of young people will never play PlayStation 5. Like, many young people right now, and Sony is like, they don't care, because their profit margins are so high as they're able to milk, adults right now, people our age who still play games, the ponies that they don't give a fuck, but it's going to hurt. Because as people are getting older, as time's getting harder and tougher, as more people start to transition to PC and PC handhelds and consoles, PC-based consoles, it's going to result, I'm telling you, it's going to result in Sony's profits potentially dipping. They're the top dog right now because they have no competition. But give it some time, and we may be very, very surprised how serious things actually get. Like, they can go woke, go broke. I just absolutely feel like this is the crazy reality that we live in right now, and this is the crazy reality that we live in right now, and it happened because of there's an agenda that basically they're gonna push this narrative on us, and we have to accept it whether we want it or not. Well, guess what? Just like, guys, women are going to face a lot of hardship as well in the coming years, as men are deciding that they are not going to give them their money. Men are not giving their money to women anymore. Men are spending that money on themselves, and men are not giving their money to these toxic game companies anymore. Men are just spending that money on themselves and on the things that they want to, the things that make them happy. By the way, guys, shout out to the 1 Hour Gang. Shout out to the 1 Hour Gang. Yes, I do see you guys. I do see you. I absolutely see you. For everyone who's still watching, for the 1 Hour Gang, here's a little treat for you. We have memes for men. I went ahead and threw this together for you guys. So here's our meme. Women on the left says, why do we always live longer than men? And then the woman on the right says, I don't know. And then there's a picture on the bottom of men basically doing hard labor. In this case, this guy's chiseling a brick wall. This is just life. This is just life. This is just how life is for men. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Men basically end up, men end up in tough spots. Now, just to be clear, there is a guy beneath him. It does appear with his head actually in the pavement. But yeah, guys, listen. it's interesting how men are viewed, how men actually weigh on the scale, on the IQ scale, because the dumbest people are men and the smartest people are men. This is a crazy statistics. So women are actually somewhere in the middle. So in terms of human intelligence, the dumbest, and guys, women want to have everything. Women want everything except they don't want to be negative. So, for example, the dumbest people amongst us statistically are actually men. Men statistically have more stupid people than women, but then they also have more smart people than women. So we basically occupy both ends of the spectrum. We have extremely dumb men, and then we have extremely intelligent men. Okay, and of course there are women who fall on both, but a lot of women are pissed off because they all want to be at the top end. They all want to be the smartest of the bunch. I tell you guys, society, women, it's just how the world is. But you just have to wake up and realize that that's how things have been going for a while now. Yeah, guys. So I just want to remend. I just remend. I was gonna say remend. What the fuck does remend mean? Remend. Get the fuck out of here. Did I just say fuck out of here to myself? No, no, no. I don't know. Maybe I do curse a little too much. Maybe I'm a little too critical. But then again, that's why I'm the angry guy. Guys, check out the Angry Guy Clubhouse on Substack. Dive into exclusive podcasts, manosphere topics, and more. Plus, get access to our passive income blueprint, exclusive videos, and guides on building wealth and thriving. We also have a chat where you could reach me directly. Don't miss out. Click the link in the description to subscribe now and get your free passive income blueprint. See how nice that is? It's really nice, isn't it? You should get yourself a You should just go and join. Go and join and become a part of the club. We want to see you. We want to see you there.
But when you look at what they were setting up with that like Amazon TV show, which I guess they're going forward with, the weekly cutscenes for the game, they were going in on this game on a level that I don't think any of us truly comprehended despite what we had heard about the game. So yeah, Concord as a failure is way worse than you could have ever imagined, right? Because the estimated number for all of this was 100 million. That's what people were thinking, like, oh, it's 100 million, which was already a cratering loss, right? You 100 million and you refunded all the copies of the game. So you made like nothing on this. Maybe $1 million is what Colin said. That's nothing. But to have that now scale up to potentially 400 million without even considering the studio purchase is one of the greatest blunders in video game history. So hopefully it's a lesson that all developers can take a look at and take something away from it, because it is going to be a costly lesson for PlayStation. And I've already started to see people use the term Concord tax, because you got to wonder, with such a cratering blow like that, how much PlayStation wants to get the money back there. It also depends how much they have in the account.
And I think the term Concord tax is very, very appropriate, because people are basically Sony guys. Companies don't have as much money as you think. Like cash on hand, it doesn't work like that. All right, even though they may be worth a lot of money, they don't necessarily have all of those physical assets just readily available to them. During the events of, was it 2007, the Great Recession, 2007, 2008, when that hit, AT&T could not get a loan for like $100 million just for cash flow, like just to do day-to-day business. They couldn't get a loan of like $100 million. This is AT&T, one of the largest corporations in the world. They were worth like $100 billion or more than $100 billion at the time. And they could not get a loan for $100 million just to do day-to-day business. Like, that's how bad it was. So that tells you that these companies don't have as much liquid assets as you really think. Okay? And if you look at Square Enix, for example, Square Enix is in a pretty bad position. It would have been smarter for Sony to buy out Square Enix than it would have been to buy out was it Bungie? But hey, they fucked up with that one. Also, acquisitions are a bit more different. Acquisitions in Japan are a bit different. Like they can literally say fuck off in Japan. Like companies, they can literally tell you to just fuck off. They can literally just tell you to fuck off. It's more difficult to just acquire a company like that. But yeah, guys, I just hope this company dies. And the reality right now, the future of all of this is basically men are basically waking up and flexing their power and letting companies know that we'll just take our money away. And a lot of women in society, they're going to be experiencing that same phenomenon as men are taking their money away and living basically in a shoebox at the side of the road, happy as happy as they, because guys, a PlayStation 5 is a one-time purchase. You know, a Steam Deck is a one-time purchase. A nice gaming PC is a one-time purchase. And men would rather play their video games than play with girls right now because they're way too expensive. And you know, it basically just, it's like a lifetime of pain and suffering. It just never leaves you after you mess around with mess around with something so expensive. Anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think regarding all of this. This massive gamer backlash against feminism has resulted in feminists being purged from the gaming industry. Some of the, right now, some of the industry watchers are actually saying, so people who work in the gaming industry, who worked for Sweet Baby Inc., they're being told that, like, companies are saying that we don't want to hire you. We do not want to hire you going forward because you worked for Sweet Baby Inc. So that consequence is already there. But guys, yeah, what do you think regarding everything we discussed here? Let me know. We'll talk about it in the comments. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, man, walking away. And cheers.